you can look at, data points and be like, oh, it looks like there's an opening in the market here. The reality is the beauty industry is so saturated with brand, and people aren't just looking to add and complicate their routines when it comes to beauty. So you really, in my opinion, have to be solving a true problem that they're currently experiencing, or your product has to be infinitely better than the option that they're currently using.
Hi, my name is Courtney, and welcome to How They Scaled It, with scaling is done with both sides of the brain. Today, I'm excited to welcome Brittany Lo. With a passion for entrepreneurship and empowering women, Brittany has built a remarkable career in the beauty and wellness space. She began her journey studying entrepreneurship at Babson College and gained experience with industry giants like L'Oreal. In 2015, she founded Beautini, a luxury beauty concierge specializing in hair and makeup for weddings and events. Listening to the needs of her clients, Brittany noticed a gap in the market, which led to the creation of Beia, a high-end body care brand designed to support confidence and self-care from head to toe. Brittany now, very impressively, runs both of these companies. Brittany, it is such an honor to have you here today. Welcome to How They Scaled It.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Of course. I want to start with kind of the spark behind Beia, because I think that you had such an interesting way to identify that gap in the market. So tell me about how you came up with the idea for Beia.
Yeah, so even before I was in college, before I started my first business, I always wanted to go into beauty products, but I wasn't sure where the white space was. And so that's where I decided to take my first step forward by creating a service, like a beauty concierge called Beautini, because that would allow me to work with women in person and really understand their beauty pain points, like where are the holes in terms of their everyday routine, to then figure out the next steps for what became Beia. And so what we found was I'd be working with women, they'd be coming in before a wedding or a big event, and they'd ask, the traditional, oh, what color is this lipstick? But they'd also be like, ooh, I get really sweaty. Is my makeup going to hold all day? Or, when I sweat, I tend to get a little stinky. What do I do? Or I have these, blemishes on my chest. I have a low cut dress. What should we do? And so it was all these questions that almost were little insecurities, but we're looking for beauty solutions. And so ultimately it sparked the idea because I personally would run from the office to an event or going out, and I'd be like, ooh, I stink, and have the same little insecurities of oh no, I hope this person can't smell me, instead of being in the moment. And so that's where Beia was born. So Beia's lifestyle skincare that keeps you feeling confident and clean throughout the day.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I think that when we think about the beauty industry, it's all face. You see so many products for your face, for the neck and up. That's kind of where everything is focused. But it sounds like you're well, it seems like there's a lot of other problems that need to be addressed here. So I love that you had the experience of Beautini to be okay, I know these people will buy these types of products. So how can we make something that works really well for them?
Right. And that's the thing is you can look at, data points and be like, oh, it looks like there's an opening in the market here. The reality is the beauty industry is so saturated with brand, and people aren't just looking to add and complicate their routines when it comes to beauty. So you really, in my opinion, have to be solving a true problem that they're currently experiencing, or your product has to be infinitely better than the option that they're currently using. And so with Beia, it was for me, I don't want to just use a body scrub just to use a body scrub because I have all this time, but I need something that's going to provide effective results and target those ingrowns that are driving me crazy and irritating my skin in a timely manner.
Yeah. Well, so tell me, obviously you didn't just go from I have this idea to making a bunch of money. What were kind of the bigger challenges when you first started Beia, and how did you kind of work through those?
So I started ideating for Beia in 2020 when there was a pandemic. So in terms of supply chain and just even understanding what the future entailed, that was a whole thing in itself. But once you have the idea, you kind of are now what? And so I always find, based at my time at L'Oreal, even if they had this really fascinating idea for a new product, you always start with a baseline, right? What is that baseline product that you're like, I want something like this, and here's how I want to make it different. And so with Beia, I kind of started with our daily hydrating setting mist because that was what was requested by our client who were getting married. So it would help their sweat control, keep their skin hydrated so they could just be in the moment. So first step was finding products that I thought could best suit that solution, and then understanding what would I want to change, what would I want to improve. And honestly, the hardest part was finding a manufacturer to actually make your vision a reality.
Right. How did you go about like testing different? Did you just start calling people, or how did you find your manufacturer?
So the funny part is, like, you can't just Google like beauty manufacturers.
Right.
It's a pretty archaic piece of the industry where
Yeah.
there's people who've been in this industry for decades. And so you kind of have to know someone who knows someone in order for them to take the risk on you. Because
Yeah.
unless you're doing significant quantities, which we weren't doing at the start, they're not going to really make money, or it's not really worth their time. So we started Googling, we had a bunch of questions, and it was almost a point where you have to like beg them to want to work with you, and you're pitching them just like as you would pitch an investor. But it turns out that our first manufacturer came through my intern, whose family friend knew the CFO of this plant. And so they took our meeting and they end up working with us, and they've been a great partner. And since then, it's all about like who in the industry can connect me to with someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty amazing that your intern pulled through
I
like that.
know. I will
I've
say
never...
now she works full time with me, so she
Yeah.
definitely earned that role for sure.
For sure. Well, and I think also like these manufacturers and these like production companies specifically for the beauty industry, like they don't want to be known because the more you look into it, you're like, oh, this one manufacturer makes the same thing for everybody. So it does feel kind of like this like very cloak and dagger kind of industry.
100%. Even like finding, so something that we learned the hard way was you have to be like, if you are looking to create your own product, like it's really important to own your IP, own your formulas, and but that's like not always the case with manufacturers. So we have a chemist that we work with solely for all of our formulas, but it is like something that even with, and like you can always rely on like, okay, who do you know, and like who do you think would be like best fit to make this product? Because we now work with several different manufacturers, but there's a lot of layers once you find that person on like how can you bring the best product to market.
Yeah. So then is your chemist through your manufacturer, or was that like a separate person that you had to find?
Separate person that we had to find. And you don't always need to find a chemist, but for me, I'm like very particular on our formulations and the quality and like my vision for products, that I felt like I'd rather hire someone who can make truly the product that I love, and not based on like cost or ingredients that the manufacturer has in stock already. Like if it has to be a difficult ingredient sourcing process, so be it. But we like, being mindful of supply chain, but I wanted to make sure we were creating the best product and formula possible, and then do a tech transfer, it's called, to whichever manufacturer we believed would be the best fit for that product.
Right. Well, and I mean, if you're not going to use the chemist and come up with your own stuff, why not just like white label the stuff they already make, So it's worth
and
the
like
investment, I think.
Some people can like find the right R&D team within a manufacturer to help them, but this is kind of the setup that's worked really well for us.
Yeah. So you make your product. Do you start immediately selling to your Beautini customers, or how do you kind of like start getting sales?
So yes, I'd say Beia Soft like seeded the market with our initial product in 2021, but we officially launched like mid-June of 2022. So like we soft launched to our networks, and luckily because of Beautini, we have an incredible client base. We have an incredible vendor base that has been huge supporters, and then just like reached into my own personal network of people. I think something that really helped with the success of the sales from the start was bringing people along the journey. So they felt like they were a part of what packaging we chose, or the name, or the direction that we took. They're a little bit more invested to buy your product. And so that was something that I was very mindful of. So that way, by the time our first product was here, we were able to all celebrate that milestone together, which did equate to nice sales and conversions from the start.
Yeah. So when you started to see people actually like buying the product, when you think like when you started in 2020 during this pandemic, it must have been so stressful and so much up in the air. So when people actually started purchasing on their own, like how did that feel? Like that must have been a huge moment for you.
Yeah, it really, because yeah, I knew I wanted to go into products, like I said, for years. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
technically when we launched in 2022, like it was a lot of effort and time and money that I put into it. So,
Yeah.
and you just don't know, like you could be so obsessed with an idea and you might think it's really great, but if someone else doesn't see that, you don't
Right.
have a business. And so being able to properly launch mid-year in 2022 and see people buy, you're like, okay, maybe, they're doing it because they like me and they're
Right.
trying to support me. But when you see them do the repeat ordering, then you know you have a customer. And that to me is so cool. And even recently we were at a event, selling Beia, and someone's like, I'm obsessed with your mist. And like, this is like that my subletter introduced me to your brand, and this is how I found it. Like those stories, like
Yeah.
make me like so giddy because it's so fun to then see like people are really liking your product without liking you.
Yeah. Well, and like you think about Beautini having, you have all your customers, which is like not a small amount of customers for Beautini. You're a pretty decent sized brand there. But to go beyond it, like, and have such a much larger impact, especially around kind of like you wanting to support women's empowerment and like all these different things, it probably, to me, it seems like it would be like, okay, I can affect much more change. I can help a lot more people than just with Beautini.
Yes. And that's where like the fun part is like the scalability of Bea
Yeah.
is limitless. And
Hmm.
so it is neat to be able to. We had someone recently say how one of our products, like the body scrub, like changed her life. And she was very specific on some of her struggles and like
Hmm.
health conditions and how our products she can actually use. And she doesn't even, I don't even think she lives near here. And so
Yeah.
just like really neat to see the power of the brand and also being able to be digital, that you can impact people's lives from all around the world.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you have to be in person for a service, it still can be impactful in the way that we're working on their biggest, arguably the biggest day of their lives, but it's not as scalable.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think is most exciting with building Beia is, we can touch people's lives in so many different ways in all different areas that they live in.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you were kind of getting started getting it out there a little bit more, did you try anything that was like a little bit unconventional in scaling and just trying to get the word out there? And like, did any of that not work?
So it's interesting because when I was thinking about how did I grow Beautini, because
Yeah.
when you start a business, you're like, I can make a website, and then you're
Yeah.
just like waiting for customers, and you're like, now what? And so
Right.
what really helped us was talking to a lot of people about the idea and like what we're looking to do, and being very open to feedback and their insights without
Hmm.
relying on it, right? Like being open and seeing their perspective. And with Butini, I realized through peers that the real white space for services was in the wedding space, because there's a lot of women on a daily basis who don't wear a ton of makeup and they like more of like a red carpet look than a traditional bridal look. And
Hmm.
so then the next step was, okay, if I want to reach brides, where are they? So we started doing trade shows, and that being in person with people had such a meaningful impact. So with Bea, when I thought about similarly, how do we get out there? I was like, I want to be in retail. Like, I want to be in this industry. Where do I go? So the first thing we did, we also signed up for a trade show. And
Hmm.
that's what led us into like being launch partner with Neiman Marcus in their intimate care category, and then Free People, and Urban Outfitters. It led us to our first big account. And I think that there's something to be said is like one of my superpowers is really connecting with people.
Yeah.
And it really allows us to be able to do so in person from the start, just through the trade show.
Yeah. So you kind of started more on the retail side than the e-commerce side then, yeah?
Yeah, so I will preface that is that when I was thinking about how do we address these intimate concerns, whether it's sweat, body
Yeah.
odors, blemishes, this was a time where like intimate care, sexual wellness was becoming really popular.
Mm-hmm.
And my theory was, well, if you're worried about a blemish on your butt, when are you most exposed? Generally when you are intimate or in the bedroom. And so
Yeah.
we leaned into more of this like intimate care category, which did prohibit us from, advertising on Meta and
Right.
like even the word intimacy and intimate, like there's just so many regulations that we really couldn't advertise that openly. And so recently we are currently in a like rebrand, remessaging, because we realize our audience is way broader than that.
Yeah.
They really just want us to fit into their everyday lifestyle, wherever they might be, to
Mm-hmm.
feel clean and confident with these gentle, clean formulas. And so now we're going to be leaning more into like like Amazon's been huge, our D2C is growing because we can. So
Yeah.
that was where, being aware of like the direction that makes most sense for where you are is important. And I knew that like a lot of these retailers were wanting to play into sexual wellness and intimate care. And so that's why I felt like that was like the biggest step forward. But now that we're able to broaden into being more skincare, right, for face and body, now we're seeing so much growth potential
Yeah.
digitally.
Yeah, I love that pivot. And I mean, that totally makes sense to be like, okay, if we can hop on this trend and get
Yes.
in with these like retailers for this very specific thing, you're probably going to have a better story to tell. But as soon as you're like, okay, now let's scale, now it's time for us to say, okay, what's the broadest way we could talk about ourselves? Because
Yes.
you've already established yourself in intimate care, so now how can you like broaden
Broaden
it,
it.
broaden it
And
out?
that's something to me, like, I think when I talk to other entrepreneurs who have an idea, I'm like, be committed on the journey and like
Yeah,
the mission of your company, but be willing to adapt and adjust based on like how your market is reacting to your products, to your brand. And it was a good lesson where I full heartedly believed in like the intimate care, sexual. Like I've
yeah,
always been very sensually confident, and there was a lot there. But then there was a lot of promising retailers and strategies of like how they were going to educate in this category. And that didn't really happen. And so
mhm,
without the support of like the bigger companies out there as a retailer to educate the customers, it's too much of a barrier for like an individual indie brand to be able to
yeah,
take on that education. And we just learned as our customer base grew, it wasn't necessarily, yes, our body and intimacy serum, like they love using and they love feeling confident that if they can use our products in intimate areas, it's gentle enough to use everywhere.
right.
But they want us more than just in the bedroom. And that was like, we wouldn't know unless we dived, moved towards that path to then realize, oh, now that we know and have insights here, now we can take that next step forward.
Yeah, we can see more opportunities once we
Yes.
get to the place where you can kind of get to the
Right.
mountain top and see everything.
Exactly. And I do think it's better to be someone's everything than trying to be everyone's something. And so I
Yeah,
do think picking a niche and like understanding how to grow that from the start is important. So then
yeah,
you can build credibility in one vertical and then expand from there. Whether it
yeah,
works or it doesn't, you'll learn either way.
yeah. So tell me more about getting in with Neiman Marcus and these other retailers when you didn't really have like a big brand name behind you. So this is kind of the opposite of what a lot of people do. So how did you approach those conversations?
I mean, I shared the vision with them, and ultimately, like the products spoke for themselves. Like, if you don't have a super high quality product, like, what do you really have? And
Right.
yes, the brand awareness wasn't fully there, but our the quality of the products, like once you try it and you see it,
Hmm.
you're like, whoa, like what I get it. And that's what happened with the buyers. They're like, oh my, they came back the next day and they're like, can I put your serum on one of my hands and the other? She's like, feel the difference. She's like, I cannot get over this. And she's like, I try so many products. And
Yeah.
so for them, they got to see the results in their own life, in
Hmm.
their own routine. And that's what really sold them. And they also were very excited about this intimate care, sexual wellness category. So we were basically launching the category with them through their pilot, which was exciting. And I think that
Yeah.
they quickly realized maybe their customers don't want that category. So we ended up being more into like their new beauty
Yeah.
indie business, and that was fine. But I think that as their priorities or focus changed, we realized that honestly an Amazon is like the number one beauty retailer in the United States. And like there's so much potential to really grow other ways. And I
Yeah.
think omni-channel is where we'll always be, because I think
Yeah.
that you want to be where your customers are. But that's ultimately how we got them to give us a go.
Yeah, I feel like this is true. Anytime I talk to someone, they're like, "We started it in retail and we didn't have any brand awareness." The answer is always, "We had a very good product." Like that's just
Yeah.
kind of like what it comes down to, and goes back to when you're like, "All right, I'm gonna work with a chemist. It's gonna be more expensive. It's gonna be harder to do, but that's what pays off then when you actually launch, because then you have a product that, because like these people from like Neiman Marcus and like all of the retailers, they do try so many
So many
different products. So
products.
to stand out on product quality alone is pretty powerful.
And that's where like I have chills thinking, because we've had some like my dream partners reach out and they're like, you've nailed your formulas. Like we really, like we've been working on some of our products for like since I start, like probably like 4 years, and we still haven't launched
Yeah.
them, because it's like the more that we can learn about our customers and just like be a little very meticulous of like, okay, like I do like this, but this doesn't work. And even pushing, our chemist will push back on us on certain things that he feels like we can improve on, or he's like, that's not gonna work. But then I also push back on like, nope, we're gonna find this, like there has
Yes.
to be a way that we can keep it as clean as it is, but still be super effective. And it goes back to having a really strong relationship with our partners, with our chemists, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to have that confidence of like, this is a vision, and I'm not going to launch a product until it surpasses it.
Yeah. Well, and so let's talk a little bit more about like confidence, I guess.
Yeah.
A big part of your vision and your brand is empowering women. And
Yeah.
so obviously we've talked a little bit about kind of in the intimate space, like that's where you're the most vulnerable, so you want to be the strongest. But tell me more about how you approach empowerment and like weaving that into the brand and into the products.
So I took it from my own personal experiences. Like there's something that even I think about like middle school, where like my mom, like we went to TJ Maxx and I got like a new skirt for this like big speaking
Yeah.
thing that I had, or events. Like I felt like I was on top of the world. Like even like dancing at like 2 years old, like I did my own makeup. I looked crazy,
Yeah.
but I felt amazing. And my parents did a really good job of allowing me to embrace that.
Mhm.
And so when I think about even today, like when I like curl my hair, I put on an outfit that makes me feel really good. That confidence, it's like an inner to outer experience. And sometimes,
Yeah.
or sorry, that's more of like an outer to inner experience. And so even with Beautini, it's always about how we empower women to look and feel their most confident self. And sometimes, yes, you can do all the work inner, and that's super important. Like you mentally have to like feel it, but sometimes like having like, your makeup done, or like putting on a special blazer, like that is how you can channel your inner confidence
Yeah.
sometimes. And so with Beia, for us, like I know, like I personally, like even right now, like right before this, I was like, I need one of my refresh wipes because I stink. And
Yeah.
we're virtual right now, right? But it's
Right.
like, how does it make me feel? Like if I can smell myself and I don't feel really good about it, it's going to show with our conversation. So it's all these little things that we can do where it's not changing who we are, but setting ourselves up for success. When
Mhm.
you feel so good about yourself, that's when you're your most confident. And I'm a big believer about that. It's not like you have to look a certain way based on what society says, but however you channel that confidence for your own self, I think is a really powerful um shift. Because you can say, oh, hair, makeup, or beauty products are so surface level, but
Right.
hey, that makes you crush that meeting, or that if it makes you feel so good about yourself that you feel like you can dominate the world and your dreams can come true, like why not?
Yeah. Well, and it's almost like you're using all of these like um expectations that especially put placed on women to like look a certain way, act certain whatever, using that kind of to your advantage and be like, yeah, like I do look really good. And like
Yeah, and you're like,
and that makes
hey,
you
you
feel
know what?
good.
Yes, and you're
We
gonna be
lean
your
into
own
it.
own cheerleader. Like if you rely on other people to be like, wow, you look really pretty today, or wow, you like
Right.
crushed that meeting today, like you're only going to get so far. Like you have to channel and do what, like, whether that's like listening to a certain mantra in the morning, or for me, like I have to work out. It centers me mentally, but I also feel good about myself physically. And it helps me like be like, all right, I'm ready to tackle a day. And when I
Yeah.
put a little extra lipstick on, or I feel really good about my hair, like it gives you that little like step in your, it just gives pip, what is it, puts a little pep in your
Pep in your
walk.
step.
Pep
Yeah.
in your step, yes, it puts a little pep in your step,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
like you, like nothing's gonna stop you, and that's a really powerful feeling to have.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're biohacking a little bit. Just
Yeah, and it's like, you
any
know what,
little incremental change helps.
like whether it's like a, your ingrowns, and or your like smell, or you're just feeling a little like running off the subway trying to like run to a meeting, and then
Yeah.
you have to like show, like present, like if we can help you with these like moments throughout your routine where you're like, okay, let me just spray
Yeah.
myself or mist, take a deep breath. All right, I'm ready to go. Like that,
Yeah.
those are the moments in your routine that we're really focused on, because it's not just addressing the outer
Right.
appearance, but it's like about how you feel. And that's like our whole thing, is like, how do we make you feel more confident? Okay, it's these little insecurities that we all might experience, but not talk about a ton, that we're here to help you feel just a little bit more like confident in your day.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's a good message, and I think it's so relatable. I think that's probably why customers like get it and like can like understand like what you're trying to do rather than just another beauty brand, you know?
Right. And the world doesn't need just another brand.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you serve just a specific group of people a little bit more intentionally?
Yeah, yeah. I love that. So that's kind of the vision side of it. But then when you get down to business,
Yeah.
ultimately at the end of the day, you are a businesswoman
Mhm.
and balancing the profitability with your
Mhm.
brand identity and like bringing in the chemist and having these really unique and specific formulas that take a really long time to make. How have you been able to kind of like balance that profitability and make sure that you're growing the brand in a way that's actually making money for you?
So it's funny because similarly with Beautini, when I started, we were working out of like Equinoxes and trying to do this like quick service
Yeah.
concierge. And I very quickly realized the quality of stylists I could get at that price point was not aligned with my vision. I wanted
Mm.
people to care about this experience. And also, I was like, that's a volume game.
Yeah.
I want to be competing on quality. And so that's where we shifted into weddings and special events where people really care about who they're working with. And so the same thing with Beia. I was like, I'm not going to just put out a product just to put out a product. Like, it has to be of a certain quality. And when we hit those certain qualities, I'm like, oof, like that means we have to be a premium brand,
Yeah.
because I would rather have people who value quality and are willing to pay that price point versus trying to cut corners and be like, okay, like I just need to sell a lot more in order to make this work. Like I'm always a quality over quantity type of person.
Yeah.
And I think that we're seeing that even more and more. I'm willing to invest in a staple piece of clothing that I'll wear all the time versus trying to just get a bunch of quick fashion pieces that I can wear once or twice and be done with. And so I think it just came down to like, what do I value? And I really like, I have so many skin allergy. Like I've always invested in this. And I think investing in yourself, like if you're not willing to invest in yourself, then why are we going to try so hard to chase you? Like we
Right.
want to invest in women who are in men who are excited to invest in quality products for themselves in all aspects of their life. And it doesn't mean, we're going to be $100. We're still very much like affordable. Like our wipes are about $20. Like it's not
Yeah.
absolutely outrageous or unattainable, but based on all the quality formulas and everything that we want to do for the brand, it had to be on the premium side.
Right, right. Well, and I mean, ultimately, if you say, I want every single person to be my customer, it's a race to the bottom, and that's
Yeah.
not going to work for anybody.
Exactly, exactly. And it's like, then that's the same thing with Beautini. It was like anyone who might have like this crazy wedding budget, but really prioritizes weddings, or someone who does have like this crazy budget, but still wants like good quality hair
Hmm.
makeup. They don't need like the Kardashians makeup artists, right? So I
Right,
think it's
right.
fine, like being very clear on like who you're targeting. And with Beia, it's the same thing. It's someone who maybe like we have a bunch of college girls who are they're not making a salary. So it's really someone who's like saving up their Christmas money or their excess money and being like, I want this because it makes like this
Yeah.
is it doesn't make my skin flare up. Like this is worth it. Or you have people, women in their 40s who are like, okay, I also want a quality product and this really works for me as well. So I think
Mhm.
that's where we come into play of being very mindful of who we're targeting and aligning our quality to align with them.
Yeah. Well, so that being said, how are you measuring success of Bea? Is it repeat customers? Is it growth year over year? Kind of how are you looking at the success?
So I think the success that I think is most meaningful is making sure that as we grow, because from the start, I based our products and the brand on our actual like on
Yeah.
customers and their insights. And so as we grow, even for our newer products and even our new messaging, like instead of like looking at, all right, what does the like where's the gap in the market from an industry
Right.
perspective? Let's just go there. I was like, let's talk to our customers and see where do they need us? Like
Hmm.
why do they choose us? And like being very curious about our customers. So I think that's like a big piece for me is like customer insights where they're excited to hop on a focus group or a phone call
Yeah.
with my team, with myself, and give us feedback and then feel like we're listening. Like that is huge. Like that is more than anything because if your customers don't feel like they're being listened to, you might get one repeat order, but then it will stop. And so I
Yeah.
think that right now, instead of being so focused on, all right, we need to grow, I definitely have our metrics for our agency partners and for Amazon. Like we have growth metrics, and those are very important. But if you don't have the fundamentals down where you
Right.
are really resonating with your customer base, then it's only going to be time until you do have to force yourself to stop and listen. So that's
Hmm.
like probably what we're right now most focused on. And then as we've seen growth in certain channels, then working with our whether it's in-house team or the agency partners to figure out, okay, what's a way to be able to scale responsibly,
Yeah.
because profitability for me is like a big metric versus
Right.
just growth, because we've seen that time and time over again where it's like, oh, we've made X amount of revenue, but what's your bottom line? And I think
Right.
that's where sure we could pump money to like hit a certain metric, but I want to grow where I can grow sustainably and be really proud of our margins and our numbers and be able to learn every step of the way versus pouring everything in and hope it works.
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of ecom brands, there's kind of like this like trade-off that you have to make where a lot of them start out and they're like, okay, we need to grow, we need to get enough customers so then we can get repeat purchases. And I think it's really hard for people to shift from I need growth, I need customers to when do we start thinking about profitability? Because at some point you're going to run out of money no matter how many customers you have. So was there like a moment where you were like, I'm going to focus more on profitability than just pure growth?
Well, the reality is I'm self-funding Bea,
Yeah.
so like I need to be
It
profitable. And
actually is very
I
important.
think
Yeah.
in the beginning, it's like, you know what, you need to invest what you need to invest
Yeah.
to get the customers, to get the brand out there, to make sure the editors know about your brand.
Hmm.
But especially this year, like towards the end of last year, but very much into, when you start thinking about your 2025 strategy, I was like, what is our number one theme? And for us, it's like, how do we get more eyeballs that convert on our business? So it's
Hmm.
not just like spending money on events that seem cool, but they
Yeah.
have to convert, because ultimately profitability, like from the start, has been a top priority. But it's like now that we've invested in top formulas, top quality packaging, getting the right team in place, and that takes money. Now
Yeah.
it's time to be like, all right, before we launch a bunch of different products, let's think this through. And I love, honestly, like spending my own money on it, because instead of just throwing products out there every other month or every month, I'm like, wait a minute. Do they actually want this product? If I'm
Right.
going to bring it to market, how can I make sure it is the absolute best product possible? Because it's very expensive. And so it almost forces you to be a little bit more resourceful
Yeah.
and go back to your foundation, go back to your customers and really, really listen, because you feel that dollar so hard.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think that's probably what drives you to be so connected with your customers. I think the way that you talk about your customers is a little bit different than I've heard other e-com founders talk about their customers. Like I think that you're doing more check-ins and that also comes from how you founded this from
Yeah.
Beautini and being so like connected. So based on that, have you found channels that are just like much more profitable than others? Like what are the channels that are working the best for your customers?
So that's a really good point. And so it's interesting because even recently, as we were trying to grow, and I was like, I know our audience is bigger than what we anticipated. So how do I reach them? And I was going to like different retailers to get their feedback. And I was like, okay, let me talk to all these industry people. And I found myself being so overwhelmed and so confused because they
Yeah.
all had very different
Yes.
feedback, and they're like, this is confusing, you have to do it this way because when your merchandise, like, it has to look like this. And I really, talking about confidence, I really lost my confidence because I was
Yeah.
like, people are telling me to go bring Beia into 10 different directions, and I don't know which one's right.
Yeah.
Right. And I say that because, right, there is no, like, I'm
Right.
the one who has the vision. It's like my business. So it's like, which one's actually right for me? And I had a conversation with someone in the industry and was like, listen, stop listening to everyone because they have a rear view of what has worked in the past. Go directly, like, go talk to your customers again, like, see
Yeah.
what they want, like, what's resonating with them. And honestly, ever since I had that check in with myself and like remembered that, like, I'm like, why? Like, why would like, now I have so much more clarity. And
Yeah.
that's where I think sometimes as you grow, it's hard to stay so connected. And I think we can only do better and better with that. But I love learning from our customers and being so inspired by them. And so ultimately, like, a big piece of our number one channel, which has been insane, is like our Amazon, because
Yeah.
people feel like they can buy from us directly. They're learning about us through social or, our website as well. And whether they purchase right on our website or Amazon, like, it makes us feel a little bit more connected versus selling to a retailer and then not having any idea who that person
Right.
is. So like D2C will always be the best
Yeah.
channel for
Yeah.
us. But I think Amazon has been fascinating because their overall strategy for beauty is really, really interesting. People aren't going to Amazon just to refill,
Right.
their products, but people are going there to discover. They are using it as a search engine.
Hmm.
And so that's where we're trying to, if customers are on there every single day, well, why aren't we there and like really trying to be as present and visible as we can on that platform?
Yeah. Well, and I think they also use it for like checking your reviews. So like making sure that you have that presence and you're getting people to review you
100%.
everywhere is super important. And as much of a pain as Amazon is, where you don't
To
get the
work,
right data
yes.
and you have to pay so much, it really is worth it to just be where the consumers are and where they're actually like pulling the trigger and buying. So
Yes. And like, that's what I realized from other retailers. I always thought, oh, you go into a store and you just walk around and you discover new brands.
yeah,
But no, they're before someone walks into a store, they're discovering brands on social media and through word of mouth through their friends. And then they're checking the reviews or reading through what everyone has to say. Then they might go on Amazon. Then they might go into store and then be like,
yeah.
oh, let me try this brand. But the education starts so much earlier than even I realized, that it's like interesting to see like how much education, how many touch points there really are before they actually want to even discover you.
Right, right. And it's so true for beauty.
Yes.
Just,
Oh my gosh. Yes.
there's so many options. Well, I kind of want to talk a little bit about how you've built some really impressive teams. I think Beautini, you have like 80 stylists. Like, what leadership principles have really stuck with you as you've scaled both of these businesses so successfully?
So I think it's like really being self-aware as a leader is first and
Yes.
foremost, like understanding what I'm good at, what I like doing, and then what I don't like doing.
Yeah.
And that being said, it's like try to like hire to buy back your time is really important. And then
Mhm.
finding people who have like a similar work ethic. So I've learned that I personally value someone's like personality and like their work ethic and the qualities of them over who has like the right experience, because
Yeah.
if you are dedicated to figuring it out and learning, you're going to be way more valuable than someone who comes in and has a certain way of doing things based on past experiences. So I do very much lean into hire slow,
Yeah.
low, faster. I do lean in a lot with hire slowly, fire fast, and being very open. Like I recently was trying out someone for a role, and I was very much like, hey, here's the role, and like this is what we're looking for. And if that's not something that you feel like you want to really focus on, or maybe it doesn't align with your forte, that's okay. But like, we need to be on the same, let's get
Yeah, don't take
aligned.
the role.
Right.
If
And so
it's
we
just,
found out, like,
I'm
you know,
not
it's
messing
not
around.
the
I'm
right
not
fit.
joking. Like this is
Exactly. And I
literally
think
what I need.
exactly. And you're like, no, this is like, it's a lot. And
Yeah.
you work for me, we we will always operate as a startup. Like you have to
Yeah.
be like you have to be brand obsessed. You have to be like, have a really strong work ethic where it's not like you just shut off your computer at 5 p.m. And you have to be a good person where you're willing to be like all hands on deck to figure things out, because we don't have these big departments for every area of the business. Like sometimes things and opportunities arise and we together have to
Yeah.
find a solution. And I think if you're excited about that entrepreneurial spirit, you're gonna succeed on our teams. But if you want something more rigid and structured, where you're only responsible for a few different things, we're not the right fit. And I think being clear that we're not the right fit for a lot of people, and understanding that we're probably not the right fit for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's like, okay, there's a lot of people who are not the right fit for us. And there's a lot of people who think that they're not the right fit for us. And I think that's like the fit piece is just like it's not a criticism, but it's something to
Yeah.
be really curious about. And until I feel very confident in the assessments that we've seen from them, we won't, just bring them on. But ultimately, it's like just try them out. And if it doesn't work, it's okay. Especially for contractors, like it's
Yeah.
easy to be able to be like give a
Test.
testing period, test, learn, see, be honest, and then make decisions from there.
Yeah. Yeah. This is definitely like a challenge for us in growing our agency, where I used to be like, well, this person's really smart and they've got all these like skills that I know we need. So I'm going to like try to bend the agency to fit like what they want. And it never worked. It always
Works
blew
out
up.
in
And
jobs.
this realization of like, not everybody can work for Right Left Agency. And that's actually
Yes.
better. Like,
That was like the
not
hardest thing
everybody.
for me to realize too, is that like we're not going to be the right fit for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like it's
Yeah.
okay. Because
It's
they're
actually
not gonna,
better.
if you try to bend your business to make them fall in love, it's only gonna last so long and then they're
Yeah.
gonna leave anyways.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. And hiring is so hard. People are so
So hard.
challenging. But when you find the right people, it's
Hold on to them.
life changing. Oh my gosh, it makes such a
Yes.
huge difference. So
I
hold
agree. And when
on.
you have a bad egg, it's like it really impacts the rest of the
It
team.
does.
So you owe it to your company and you owe it to your team. If someone's not leveling up as everyone else is knowing that it's time to move in separate
Yeah.
directions.
Let them go find a place where they can level up. That's the nicest thing you can
Exactly.
do to them. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So looking ahead, where do you see Beia in the next 5 years?
So I have big aspirations. I'm very excited about the pipeline of products
Yeah.
that we have. And for us, like I really believe that we are an array of both like face and body skincare products that
Mhm.
you can seamlessly integrate into your routine, where it's only leveling you up in your life,
Yeah.
and that you can easily pack us wherever you go, but we can be in a cold environment, we can be on the plane as you leave for your meeting, and just providing like insane products. The dream is we naturally will be crushing it in Sephora.
Mhm.
That is like the North Star. But in addition to that, just like doesn't matter what retailer or like which channel that we're there for, but I think just having more women experience our products is
Yeah.
probably like my main focus on like wherever you are, we want to find you and we want you to discover Beia, and we want to be there for all of your different life stages and wherever you might be.
I love it. I love it. And then looking back, if you could go back to the first day when you were just starting Beia, what is one piece of advice you would give yourself?
Be confident in my vision,
Yeah.
but be flexible with finding the answers.
Yeah.
So being able to trust myself that I am onto something is something that I had to learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
But then being flexible based on opportunities, or just like as you learn through your customers or through the process, knowing it's okay to change and pivot and figure it all out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the destination's going to kind of be the same. The vision, it's just like how you get there. There's so many different ways of going, and who you listen to versus who you kind of take with a grain of salt. Those are the
Yes.
challenging parts, is figuring out.
That's honestly the biggest part. Is like I love learning from people, and I love absorbing informations and insights, which is I think a really great quality, because that's how we're learning.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, having boundaries of like who you listen to and who you don't listen to shape your perspective, because you don't want to then lose your own vision, your own identity, because you're trying so hard just to make everyone else happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good advice. So, where can people find Beia online?
So you can find Beia at Beia Beauty on both Instagram and TikTok. And if you have any other follow-up questions, I'm Brittany, BRITTANY.LO on both Instagram and TikTok. And you can also find us on beiabeauty.com, as well as Amazon and a few different retailers.
Perfect. And we'll link you on our website and everything so people can find you.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining the show, Brittany. This was a great conversation, and I feel like a lot of really good insights for growth.
I hope so. And thank you so much for having me. I loved chatting with you, and I can't wait to do it again soon.
Amazing. And thank you to everyone at home or on the go for listening. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe, share with a friend, leave us a review. And if there's anything that you'd like to hear, just let us know. For more insights, follow us on LinkedIn or visit rightleftagency.com. And we'll be back next time with more stories of success, innovation, marketing strategies to help you grow. Please follow along. Thank you.